In this video, we're going to begin to learn how to read various types of tables and charts and interpret some of the information. I went on the internet and I found a table for the median age of marriage in the United States at various year groups, and I chose to go at 30-year increments from 1890 to 2010, listing out the median age for men and for women. So let's answer a few questions. First off, in what year was the age of marriage lowest for men? Well, that means we're going to go into the second column for males and find the smallest number, which is 22.8 years old, and then we would go across to the row to get the year, which would be 1950. Now, is that the same for women? Yes, 20.3 years old in 1950 also. The second question, what was the difference in the median age of marriage for men and women in 1920? That tells us we're in the row for 1920 here, and we want to find the difference between the age for men and women. Difference is a subtraction word, so we would subtract these two numbers and find out that the difference is 3.4 years. The third question, however, is a little bit more involved. Between what 2 years listed was there the greatest change in median age for men and then for women? So we're looking at changes. Now, I probably just need to take them two at a time. Between 26.1 and 24.6, the change was 1.5 years. Between 24.6 and 22.8, the change is 1.8 years. Between 22.8 and 24.7, by subtracting, we can find out the difference is 1.9 years. And between 24.7 and 28.2, it is 3.5 years. So definitely between these last two years, 1980 to 2010, we have the largest difference between men age of marriage. Now let's see if that's the same for the women. We're going to do some subtraction. These are not too far apart. It just looks upon observation that those are 4.1 years apart, which is the greatest difference between ages. And so that would be the same pair of years between 1980 and 2010 where there was the greatest change in median age for women also. Now let's read some information from a bar chart. This information is worldwide internet users by age in November 2014, and I have the different age categories surveyed across the horizontal axis, and I've got the percentages going up the vertical axis. The first question asks, what percentage of internet users were between 15 and 34 years old? Well, that's using these first two categories or classes, and we would add together their percentages, 26.5% plus 26.7%, to get 53.2%. The next question asks, what percentage of internet users were under 15 years old? Well, our first category, our class, starts at 15 years old. So basically I need to see what percentage of the world population is accounted for with the given data, and what's left would be under 15 years old. Well, if I add up these percentages going across the top there, it's going to add up to 100% exactly. So basically that means that the percentage of worldwide users who were using the internet in 2014 really was under 1%. Either that, or there was no way for the people gathering this data to measure them. So I'm just telling you what the data says. Now I know we know people here in the United States, children, who are using the internet, but statistically speaking, when we're looking worldwide, the amount is negligible. So we're going to write 0% down. What percentage of internet users were at least 35 years old? At least means 35 or more. So I have two ways to do this. I can either add together these three percentages for these final three bars in this bar chart, Or I've already summed up the total of these first two, and we know that they're already going to add up to 100% from question number 2, and so we could subtract the 53.2% from 100% to get 46.8% that way. Now, if you were to add these together, you would find out that you would get 46.8%. So there's two ways to do this. One is to add three values together. The other is to subtract these two from 100%. But you'd need to make sure first that all 5 of these categories add up to 100% before you go that route. Now I have a third set of data I'd like to look at. We're dealing with gross sales for Nike, and this is in their fiscal year from June to May, and the years are listed as well as what the gross sales are in billions of dollars. The first question asks, what was the total gross sales over this 5-year period? That basically tells us we need to add these 5 values together, which will give us $128.83 billion in sales over these 5 years. The second question asks, what was the mean or the average gross sales over this 5-year period? Whenever you are calculating the mean, you add up the values and divide by the number of values that you've added up. So in this case, the sum was 128.83 billion, and we're going to divide by 5 since there were 5 years that were in this study. When you divide that, you're going to find that you get $25.766 billion as the mean gross sales. Now, does 25.766 seem to be right in the center of this data set? Yes, it does. So that is another way of verifying that your answer is pretty much in the right ballpark.